Hey everybody, Coach here. How you doing? Man, I hope you had a great work week and you're looking forward to the weekend. I'm coming to you from the mountainous area of Pennsylvania today after touring around some areas a little south of here. And what I wanted to bring to you today is another topic that people struggle with sometimes, not only because of costs, but also because it may not be in the norm or the culture of the area that you've decided to live in. We're talking about privacy today. How to get it, how to create it, do you need it, and do you want it? So that's what we're talking about today, privacy. Hey, if you like what you see here today, stay with me until the end of the video. But with this type of educational value for landscape, for your DIY homeowners, you might consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up button a little bit for me too. Hey, let's get this thing going, shall we? Hey, I'm Matt, you can call me Coach. Every week I bring to you DIY landscape education, concepts, theories, in an easy to understand format so you can go out there and do the project yourself, get professional results that you want, and be able to save a lot of money in the process. And most importantly, being self-reliant in this day and age and not having to rely on everybody else to do something for you. You know, in the past 20 plus years in the green industry, both as a landscape designer, contractor, retail nursery manager, and educator, I bring with me a lot of experience and knowledge that I want to share with you. The new, modern, educated, self-reliant homeowner of today. For most of us, we're not surrounded by 20-acre woodlots or bigger around the country or around the world. We're probably more on the suburbia type of scale, where we have dimensions of, 60 by 100, or maybe if you're lucky, a 10,000 square foot lot, and you have neighbors all around you. Now, what I've seen is from a cultural basis, and I also think a little bit on a property size basis. Out west, fences are really very, very common, fences and walls. But when you get back east, like you get east of the Rockies, that kind of thing, you will notice that a lot of the fences and the privacy barriers kind of start to go away. Maybe the lots get a little bigger, and so it's kind of cost prohibitive unless you're Daddy Warbucks and you got a lot of coin to throw at it. But for the most part, there isn't as much privacy back there. Okay, so let's take a look at the types of privacy that are available out there and the materials needed and used to put it all together. You know, when we were traveling through the desert Southwest this past winter, we noticed a lot of the privacy for residential landscapes kind of came from, instead of fencing like out of wood, we're talking more about walls. We're talking cinder block walls, painted cinder block walls, and stucco color-coded cinder block walls. Looked really good. They'd generally be like 6 to, in some cases, I guess I saw some 8-footers if they backed up against a big boulevard or something. But back there, the walls kind of go with that Southwest motif, if you know what I mean. You got the brighter colors and the tile roofs and the stucco finishes on the house. So the wall or fence kind of blended in with that really well. You know, out west where I practiced in California, it was always predominantly 95% or more, it was wood fence. And the wood fence could be made out of cedar, it could be made out of redwood. There were some pine, but not a lot of pine was involved. You basically saw the standard 1x8 dog-eared fence with 4x4 posts and 2x4 stringers. That was the basics. Now back east, in some of the more ritzy areas, I've seen something else, and it's the old-fashioned stone mason type of wall made out of rock. And those are some pricey ways of gaining privacy. And there's one other one. Can you think about it? Can you tell me which one it is? That's right. It's not a fence or a wall at all. It's a Greenscape privacy screen. And that I have seen back here. I have seen a lot of those that have used very well intended layers with tall in the back, something middle, and something shorter in the front in a staggered pattern that worked really, really well. And although it doesn't do a lot for security, which is what we're going to talk about, it does really do well if you get it thick enough, because you're going to need a bed that is much wider than normal. It does visually screen it. It can even provide some windbreak, and in some cases, depending on what you use, you can have a physical barrier there as well. Imagine trying to run through a 15-foot thicket of English holly. Ow. Okay, so let's break these down. Let's talk about our most expensive privacy adventure, if you would, first. That's going to be the mortared rock wall. And those are made in kind of the way a hedgerow should be properly clipped, where you have a little wider base and it kind of tapers in a pyramid shape, then with a narrower top. That's the strength and the way the masons put those things together. Now, most of the walls back there are going to be locally harvested, unless, again, you have sky's the limit dollars and you can bring in stone of whatever you want from wherever you want. But most of the time, you're talking somewhere in the neighborhoods of, I would say, $50 to $100 a linear foot to put together. It is so labor intensive, but oh my gosh, when it gets done, it is literally a work of art. It really is. And the thing about those privacy walls is they're going to stand the test of time. Long after your greenscape hedges, long after your wooden fences are done and gone, they are going to be standing. If you look at some of the walls that were built in Europe hundreds of years ago, they are just now starting to break down. And it's only the cement and mortar that put them together that's causing the breakdown. Obviously, not the natural stone. That can last for eons and eons. I don't know. I think stones are something that you really need to leave to a professional, unless you're, number one, already a professional, or number two, you start out small and develop your skill set over time. Maybe dry stack at first. Maybe take a course somewhere on how to do it. But oh my gosh, those things are fantastic. And you can see some of them around some of the big estates back east here in the United States right now. And then if you see them in England and France and other places in the EU, you know darn well those things have been there for a long, long time, and it's a very typical type of privacy wall. All right, moving on. Let's talk about wood. Wood is probably out west, and in some cases the upper Midwest, probably the most common. Now, thanks to COVID, wood prices have basically quadrupled, which I think is ridiculous, but I don't set the prices. But it used to be a professional would install somewhere around $38 to $45 a linear foot professionally installed. You can still go to the box stores and the lumber stores and still be able to get it at a reasonable price. As long as you're not in Pennsylvania like I am now and you want redwood, that's a different story. You might want to think about that. But back here they have white pine and yellow pine. Try to get pressure treated, and I'm going to tell you a way to install it here in a second to take it from that 10 to 15 year lifespan and extend it out to 25 or 30. But usually a good rot resistant type of wood is always imperative for a long, long lifespan for your fence. Generally you find them in 1x6, sometimes 1x4 pickets, mostly 1x8 dog-eared type pickets. And those are the ones that are going to be your face boards. Then you've got the 4x4 post that you're going to put in the ground, and your 2x4 stringers, okay, the cross pieces. I always suggest 3. Make sure you don't put them horizontal, you put them vertical. You put them horizontal, they're going to do this on you. They're going to sag. If you put this way, they're going to stay straight the rest of their life, okay? So try to remember that. All right, so here's a little of a longevity thing. Basically, wood fences go away because of two things. Wood to dirt contact. That's the biggest problem they have. The organisms and the instability of ground over time will weaken the posts, will weaken the fence. Anytime you have ground to soil contact, you can have organisms like termites that get into it and weaken it as well. So avoid the dirt to wood contact. How do you do that? Well, you can still dig post holes and you can fill them up and then get a strap anchor that you can set in on you do a little form around the post, like a 2x4 form in a square, pour the hole, bring it up in there, and then shimmy your strap anchor down into it, and then take the form off after it's dried, and then you can use that 4x4 strap anchor. Now you have the post up above the ground. It's never in the ground. It's in a galvanized strap anchor. It's going to last a very long time. The other way you can do it, I've seen it quite a few times. It's a 2-inch galvanized metal post, and you can put that in the ground. It'll last for a long, long time, 50 years probably. And you can cement that in, and then they have various attachments that go on. Then you can put your 2x4 stringers in and go string in between the posts. Another way to make it last a very, very long time. All right, so that's wood fencing. Now let's talk about metal. Now we talked about it just a minute ago with the galvanized posts, but what about galvanized posts with a metal type of, like the chain link? You know, chain link. Out west, we use that a lot in black vinyl coated chain link. And it was a wonderful way in the security fashion to perimeter a property, especially rural property. We didn't see them very often in town. They were often out in the country, and it's a great way to keep critters out. You know, we had coyotes and ground squirrels and skunks, possums, all that kind of stuff. They would stay out with the galvanized. Usually they wouldn't even dig underneath the fence unless there was really something they wanted on the inside. In any case, the only problem with that is it's not a visual barrier. So the privacy part of it doesn't kind of work. What a lot of people have done is they'll put the vinyl coated chain link in, and then they do a greenscape in front of it. Some people go to the extent of planting vines in front of it and allow the vine to grow up onto and into the chain link. I have an issue with that, and that is weight. Most of the time the vines were considered like star jasmine, honeysuckle, wisteria, not necessarily Virginia creeper, because although I did see some, but years down the road, 5 years plus, that vine, depending on how many you've planted on there, can become literally a tonnage of wall. And you can actually start a process of having several tons of vine material on a 2-inch galvanized post and have a wind event, and it will take that galvanized fence down. And once it goes down with all that intertwining trunk and everything that's in that chain link, you're done. You'd have to take it down and replace the whole thing, because there's no way you could go in between there and cut trunks out that have gone in between the chain link. So I would really suggest, if you want a nice looking security type of fence like the vinyl coated chain link, do a greenscape in front of it for the privacy in. All right, lastly is metal. You know, we're talking faux wrought iron and actual wrought iron. And there again, kind of like the chain link, it is a great deterrent depending on how close the spindles are put into the wrought iron, but it's really pricey, especially if you get into custom wrought iron metalwork. Then you're talking several $100s. You could actually talk probably $200 a foot, and that is really pricey. It's okay for a gate, it's okay for a driveway gate maybe, but to do a half-acre piece of property, yeah, you can do the math on that. In any case, wrought iron I have seen mostly used in conjunction with those other types or styles of fencing. I have seen wrought iron on the tops of masonry walls. I have seen wrought iron as the gate or the driveway gate with decorative wood fencing to either side. And it's usually painted in a black color. Maybe you'd have a stained wood that would contrast with it really well, but wrought iron is my last classification. So looking at Greenscape, Greenscape is my favorite. So for a particular planting scheme, when you're using privacy, using Greenscape materials, you're going to want, like I talked to at the top of the show, you're going to want to have a tall in the back, a staggered middle, and then a staggered front. And you're going to need a planting bed that's going to need some depth. If you use something like juniper, holly, arborvitae as your tall in the back, or maybe yew pine or taxus, they're going to get tall. But how tall do you want to have to maintain? And do you want this privacy screen to be a formal style or a natural style? I always think natural looks better, but formal will allow you to shrink the depth of your bed. You can make it a thinner bed and maybe only have 2 layers instead. I wouldn't suggest having anything over, certainly over 10 feet, probably 8 feet, because you're already talking something you're going to need a ladder to take care of. Now, there are some hedges out there that people have maintained that are 20 feet or more in height. And to me, that's just ludicrous. I don't know what you would try to block out with that. Now, if you're in a hilly landscape and maybe you have neighbors up the hill and you have your property down below and their patio or decking or something just looks right down onto you, you're screwed, because you're never going to get anything that tall. Even if you use trees, that they're going to take 30 plus years to gain that kind of privacy. I would suggest maybe if privacy is a big issue, make sure you're not doing anything in the backyard that requires that much privacy. But you can also move into privacy issues right in an outdoor living area. Say like shade arbors, shade sails, which are becoming really popular, and you take them down in the wintertime. But those are privacy products that also give you shade for comfort and that kind of stuff out in the backyard. In the front yard, most of the time people aren't that worried about privacy that much unless you have a unique piece of property. I know that on some of the country, rural county roads that I've traveled here recently, front yards will have a little bit of a hedgerow in front. Like if you have a lowered roadway, and then you have a beveled front yard, and then you have a walkway that goes up to the house, people will plant a hedgerow along this, so you just can't look right up into their living room window. That would probably be the most front yard type of privacy that I have seen so far. So privacy is a big deal to some. Some people, they don't care. They don't care. I have driven by places where multiple families are out in the backyard and they're having a good old time, and yet the highway is ripping right by them and it just doesn't bother them. So what is your privacy concern? Is it something that you really strongly need or want? And if so, what kind are you gonna put in? When are you gonna put it in? How much do you think it's gonna cost? Drop me a comment below. Now, if you have a particular privacy issue from a landscape perspective and you want to talk to me personally, hey, we're in that 30-day window where you can email me any question you want and I'll be there for you, no charge. Anyway, hey, I'm Matt. You can call me Coach. I appreciate you sticking with me until the end. Consider subscribing if you're this far along in the video, and check out some of the other videos that I have as well. There's a lot of landscape education there. Hey, next Friday, you can check me out every Friday afternoon and evening. Bring me up on a Saturday morning or a cup of joe, and then drop a comment for me, please. We're closing in on 1,000 subscribers, and I really need your help to get over that hump. I really do. And so far, every one of you I greatly appreciate, especially the Yard Coach crew with the weekly newsletter they get all the time, and free advice. Until next Friday, guys, you guys take care. Bye-bye.